Hey everybody, how's it going? I am your host Adrian, coming to you almost live from lovely Petaluma, California, here in Studio MC2 at Quicksurf Internet Services. Linux News Log is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Do feel free to head on over to techpodcasts.com and check out all the other technology-related shows over there. Let's go ahead and get into the stories for this episode, starting off over at ZDNet. There's a story posted by Stephen J. Von Nichols in the Linux and Open Source blog. Linux developers are working on a Windows UEFI secure boot problem. Now, he starts off the story. We all know that Windows 8 PCs will come locked up tight. Microsoft's UEFI as their Unified Extensible Firmware Interface secure boot on. This will prevent you from easily installing Linux or any other operating system, such as Windows 7 or XP, on a Windows 8 system. What we don't know is exactly how original equipment manufacturers will be implementing UEFI, never mind secure boot, on these new machines. To address this problem, James Bottomley, chair of the Linux Foundation's Technical Advisory Board, has released a version of Intel's Teana Core UEFI boot image and some code that Linux programmers can use to get around Windows 8's secure boot restrictions. Now, the Intel Teana Core is an open source image of Intel's UEFI, and until recently this image didn't have the authentic code that Microsoft uses for secure boot. However, it does have this functionality now. The article continues on saying that that Bottomley's work is important because it'll widen the pool of people who are playing with UEFI secure boot, which is, in my opinion, I completely agree with him, nothing but a good thing. So we'll see how this shakes out in the end. Personally, and Stephen J. Von Nichols also stated this, we're not sure how this is actually going to shake out because hardware that actually has UEFI is still hard to come by. So I'd be curious to see what OEMs are trying to do to address this. Also from ZDNet, Raspberry Pi in space, putting the Linux PC into orbit. This is pretty cool. The Raspberry Pi has been enthusiastically picked up by a dedicated modding community, and the cheap Linux computer has been used in projects ranging from drones to speech-controlled robots. Now, its creators want to take Raspberry Pi to a new frontier. Space. The space-time continuum. Make it so. Anyway, sorry. The credit card-sized ARM-based computers could be easily integrated into satellites, according to the device's designer Eben Upton, who envisages them also being used for research in test rockets and high-altitude balloons. Be pretty interesting to see how this all shakes out in the end. From VB News, VentureBeat News, tiny quad-core ARM Linux/Android computer delivers serious power for $129. It's pretty smoking. The tiny $35 Raspberry Pi set off a surge of demand for tiny Linux computers earlier this year. But a Korean hardware manufacturer called Hard Kernel is launching a high-end computer board that measures just 3.5 by 3.7 inches. The new board could be another favorite among hobbyist computer users. So we'll be following this to see what happens with it. 129 bucks, quad core, not bad. Running at 1.4 gigahertz. It's not it's not going to burn the barn down or anything, but still, it's pretty good. From the VAR guy, selling Linux PCs to senior citizens, the WOW computer. This is pretty neat. Desktop Linux will be ready for the masses. The old adage goes, when your grandma can use it, which is arguably not yet the case. If the WOW computer is any indication, though, Linux's time has come. At least that's what the machine's engineers who have used open source software to develop a computer specially targeted at the senior population seem to think. Now, I agree with the author here when he says that I am generally skeptical of products and services that needlessly embed punctuation marks into their names. Yahoo is bad enough, but obnoxious appellations aside, the WOW, which is identical in form and price to the Telekin Elite, although the WoWs marketed separately by partner company First Street represent an intriguing concept, particularly for the open source channel. So be interesting to see how this all turns out. Do check out the story if it's something that you're interested in. From IT World, Debian GNU/Linux, or GNU Linux, seeks alignment with the Free Software Foundation. As we all know, the Debian project is not on the approved list from the FSF. The Debian project developers of the Debian GNU Linux distribution are making a concerted effort to get within the good graces of the Free Software Foundation. Debian project leader Stefano Zaccaroli, I guess that's how you say it, proposed the plan over the U.S. holiday last week, specifically stating that project members should either get Debian in FSF free distros list or document why Debian is not there from Debian's point of view. This is something that's been going on for quite some time. They've slowly been working their way through it. We'll see if they do actually make it onto the FSF list. The SFF has stated very specifically some of the reasons why Debian is not on the FSF list, so we'll see what comes of it. Should be interesting. I would love for them to be on the FSF approved list, but time will tell. From ZDNet again, cross-platform Trojan attacks Windows, Intel, Macs, and Linux. That's right, there is a new bug out and about. It's a second cross-platform Trojan downloader. It's been discovered that detects if you're running Windows, OS X, or Linux, and then it downloads the corresponding malware for your platform. Unlike the first one, which supported PowerPC Macs, this one also does Intel x86 Macs. The downloader part is in Java. I know this because I'm a Java programmer. The minute I was looking at the source code, I was like, oh, wow, look at that. Yeah, sweet. So anyway, keep an eye out. FSecure, which first found the web exploit, detects the initial malware as Trojan downloader Java getshell.a. The respective payloads for Windows, Mac, and Linux are detected as follows: backdoor :w32/test.a, backdoor OS10/testrel.a, and backdoor :linux/getshell.a. So it was written using the Social Engineer Toolkit. It's an open source and publicly available Python tool designed for penetration testing. So kind of sucky. From GigaOM, OpenStack faces the terrible twos. OpenStack turns 2 this week. That means the open source project, which fancies itself as the Linux of the cloud, is entering a critical stage of its development process. Rackspace, which helped give birth to OpenStack in July 2010, rolled out some stats to show OpenStack momentum and to push its OpenStack as Linux comparison. For example, in the 48th week of the project, there were 166 entities contributing to the effort, whereas it took Linux 828 weeks to hit 180 active contributors, according to Rackspace's tally. By that count, and the fact that Internap, Hewlett-Packard, and Rackspace itself have OpenStack clouds in some degree of production, shows pretty fair momentum going into the year 3. However, as the author of this post, Barb Darrow, points out, there's a little bit of a fear of fracturing. There may be too many cooks in the kitchen too early, so time will tell to see how it all shakes out. That will do it for this episode of the Linux News Log. As always, everything we've talked about is linked up in the show notes. You can find those online over at quicksurf.com. Just check out for the episode number. This particular episode is 1312. And with that, I will see all of you next week. Thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you then. Bye.